Hey, it is your buddy, Peace and Harmony with you here today. Much love going out to all the beautiful empowered harmonizers. We are zooming in and focusing in a little bit more in depth, I would say, on their comment about sort of the fear that has been created or imprinted in this narcissist relationship, and that they have sort of been, how can they undo sort of that web, or that, what I would say is sort of like a lifestyle with after a relationship that might have been very controlling, demeaning, belittling, might have involved a lot of pathology, cheating, betrayal, having double and triple lives, things that were betraying of you on a very deep level, especially when it comes to commitment or just basic human interaction. And it's left you with a feeling of fear, sort of unsettled, really what I would call just sort of a chronic anxiety for a lot of our viewers when they have been sort of made a victim or experienced this unpleasant and awkward experience. The problem, though, is that it's my feeling in the healing is that it's really the level of targeting is that of the subconscious, the unconscious. And if meaning that there's something at that level that the narcissist will target to get under one's skin, to pull your strings, to get you to react, to get you to be how they want you to be. In other words, if they want you crying, then they'll do to make you cry. If they want you to smile, they'll do to make you smile. If they want you to be afraid, if they want you to, so they're always trying to sort of control, the table, if you will. They're trying to control the room. People can't act of their own free will or volition oftentimes because of this. And people feel very constrained or fearful because they might have encountered narcissistic rage, which can be very acute, come on very strong, and be at a level that it's very inappropriate for the situation, which means it does, the situation at hand does not warrant the rage, the anger, the negativity, the hostility, whatever it is, the yelling, throwing, slamming, hitting, whatever it is, the emotional abuse, verbal abuse, these sort of things in that type of relationship. And the problem therein also is that it instills and imprints at that subconscious level, where if you look at like Dr. Joe Dispenza, the TED Talks, the three brains, you can, even if you're not a psychology major, or maybe you're not even interested, but you have to understand that of the conscious mind, we really only use right now about 98 to 95%. So there's a lot of power of our brain, very complex, sophisticated, including like your autonomic nervous system, all that good stuff. But so it is at that level, that survival level, that I am level, that oftentimes this sort of manipulation will be targeted through the control of someone who seeks to serve their own ends, meaning as it benefits them, in regardless of its effect on you. So that's the outplay of the lack of empathy. So because then it can become very pathological, meaning people aren't able to sort of live a truth. They're not, and then they develop a counter identity, which is based out of fear as a result of this. So they're not, in order to play with a narcissist, you have to push yourself down or be oppressed for whatever outcome, because you're going to need to be going without something that's just part of the dynamic. And until you recognize that your identity then will slowly become degraded or eroded, so that it's then defined by the negative. And this is really why people, I would say, get the block and are stuck and aren't able to sort of let go and then move forward, because their whole I am usually then is built around a cornerstone, especially if this was early in your life, that your I am is defined by a negative, by an absence of something rather than the presence of something, the presence of whatever, presence of you, a heart, a breathing this, a sentient that, sort of eye contact, affection, whatever you call that, fellowship, belonging, validation, There's no ulterior motive. You don't have to look behind your shoulder, look there, look, this and this. This is going to break my ego. This is going to break my dream is going to break. Whatever, all the grandiose sort of fluff, is part of that sort of what becomes then like a fear mongering. Meaning to try to create and instill fear, or really what I would consider a poverty consciousness or a lack consciousness. And so then people will then not identify with their own prosperity, their own wellness, their own happiness, their own joy. Life becomes a struggle. That's because you're like living in the block. You're still living in the problem. You're living in that fear. So you have to realize a little bit about psychology and what blocks are. In other words, it doesn't allow you to move forward. You feel stuck, stifled, apathetic. So you have to realize that where these blocks, where do they come from? And can you have courage enough to acknowledge and validate that, and then alchemize or ascend to be able to acknowledge that this was in error. So you cannot really grow out of a foundation of fear, because it just becomes more and more of that. And human beings are not meant to really be in that degree of feeling uncertainty, unsafe, being attacked with reproach. So realize that the human sympathetic nervous system, if they are ignored, if they are invalidated, if they are abused, hit, told all these negative inputs, you're being treated and being programmed in a specific way, which is defined by the negative. So a lot of people's I am, if they've been in a relationship with a narcissist for some time and they have grown together, which the narcissist, of course, would laugh at, because of course, the narcissist operates by exclusivity, sort of defining the rules in terms of engagement, but they're always changing. So as soon as you follow, the rule one, well, that's changed, and then you've broken something. So it's very, it creates almost a playbook of like a football team would say, we're going to do, this and this run, and then you're following what they're wanting, and then you're criticized for that. And then the cycle just continues. And so people can't sort of emerge from that shell that the narcissist will project. It keeps you hidden from yourself. It keeps you acting against yourself. This then becomes known as sort of almost like a living self-abandonment. This is a very painful situation. People will be in a family and they feel like they're alone. They'll feel like they're at the event and they'll feel that they're not part. They'll go to the work thing and then wherever it is, those are the symptoms. Those are the symptoms. Low self-esteem, meaning, what does that really mean? That you don't feel that you're really a person of value, or you have not had that validated or mirrored back to you. You are awful. You are unbelievable. You are this. And how many negatives, if you could write them all down, how many would you have? And then at the hands of the narcissist, what other positives? Have you heard any? And then look at the flip side, and then how many, things have you endured? So you can kind of see the pattern. And once you know the pattern, that just means for a narcissist, that pattern is going to become more intense, more pronounced, and more apparent. But usually, people who are growing in personhood through their soul, their spirit, they are not prone to rigidity, especially when it comes to causing problems. People don't want to live in the block. They don't want to live in the problem. They want to be able to live or feel free, accepted, loved, and belonging, and not always have to question this. Is this going to be here for me today? So realize that it's almost like a program that tends to run through your feeling or etheric body. So you have to really be willing to look at that record, whether it's a 45, a 33, or I don't know how big your record is, but looking at that record and to say, to what degree can I get rid of this negative I am, this negative record? Or are you still attached to the negative because you don't know who you are without being defined by the negative? For those people who have been in a relationship with a narcissist for some time and they have felt disempowered, not listened to all that good stuff, then they will oftentimes be clinging on for dear life to a negative assessment of self. Who would I be if I didn't worry? Who would I be if I wasn't afraid all the time? Who would I be if I didn't have all this stress? Who would, so do you see how the anxiety then can be part of what you're holding on to for your fuel? So you have to be willing little by little to take a look at this and examine this and go, wow, to what degree have I been told that fear is my motivation versus a feeling of coming from a strength or some ingenuity or something insightful or something fun or something inspiring or something, God forbid, positive about you that might be able to coexist within all the negative that they just sort of will mirror back. So that oftentimes will keep the negative in place because people are afraid of embracing a positive sense of self because they have not experienced it, validated, don't know it to be true. It then I would say it is, so any positive that does come your way, an award, an accolade, it sort of bounces off because it does not match up with the inner truth which has been established. So especially for children who have developed their personal truth between the ages of 0 and 7, if you were taught that you were unlovable, ugly, too much, negative, hurt, you were physically abused, you were slapped, punched, whatever, all the, physical abuse, emotional abuse. We don't need to review that laundry list. But, if that, then your sense of I am is from that center of that human interaction experience. Because of the human interaction, it creates a negative sense of self, a negative validation, where one is defined by the negative rather than the positive. So people then become, especially if that is your truth that was established between 0 to 7, then any other information that tries to come in that is not in alignment with that truth oftentimes won't make it into what we call in psychology as assimilation, meaning it'll be assimilated and then you will take it in as part of your personality. In other words, if part of you is like, I am loving and I'm a good cook and I'm funny, if that's your truth, but if you're on the, I'm a terrible cook, do you see? So if something comes that contradicts your truth, then you won't define it and own it as your I am because it's in direct conflict with the truth that has been set up. So you need to understand, sort of get to the depth, the foundation, and know where your sense of self is and why. Like the who, what, all of it. And see where there was flawed thinking or, an excess of fear or pressure or stress was instilled or imprinted by a narcissist. Because a narcissist, they only want people sort of who are an extension of them. So unless you reflect back to them their greatness, their magnificence, and it cannot be shared. It's not a shared space. It has to always be, it's always there. And the terms of the engagement, the rules are oftentimes created, and then once you're fulfilled, though you're then held again in the negative. So it becomes just this cycle where you really don't progress or grow, especially in strength, serenity, love, peace, and harmony, which is, for some reason, that becomes like the forbidden fruit. It becomes not desirable. So you have to look and say, no, thank you. I don't want another helping of this. It's not for me. And you don't have to feel that you're bad, terrible for not wanting to have that sort of lifestyle or to be treated this way. It's okay to put your foot down. It's okay to think different. It's okay to not be an energetic match to someone who is abusive. It's okay to have an ounce of positivity about yourself. And I am. But for a lot of people, that might be some ways off where they can really own, I am okay, I am safe, I am pleasant. And then have that believed and reinforced within, especially at the subconscious, because that subconscious really is running the show. And if it's given an erroneous program, which means feel negative, feel afraid, feel less than, you can't, so if that's the program, if that's the command, you are, and then defined by the negative, so then you're playing that through the subconscious, so you're rehearsing and rememorizing. And so how can you ever feel the opposite of fear if you're in the fear itself and rehearsing and rememorizing that? Do you see? So it's just like, really, do you want to be and live that way? Or is there another state that you have a vision for yourself? Is there another lifestyle that you have envisioned for yourself? Is there another dream you really have for yourself? Even if your dreams have been dashed before, they've been thrown against the rocks, they've been splintered, pull it back together and realize, okay, so, my vision for my positive future is and does include, and then what about the positive? The positive early direction, does it include peace, prosperity, health, relationships, balance, laughter? What does it include for you? New perspectives, what's the word that I'm looking for? New scenery. Are you getting a change of scenery? Where are you going to feed the positive? And then be willing and accept life in the positive. So you have to gradually make that. And it might take a while to exit that fear and then realize that that enormous fear is not serving you. It is not building you up. It's not helping your future. It's oftentimes in a reaction or adversive, defined by an adversive sense of self. So you have to look at that and say, really, is that a really good way for me to treat and manage and hold myself? So because that's part of the command for the narcissist. In other words, the narcissist tries to tell you who you are and how you should feel about yourself as it's cast in the negative, even before any positive of you showed up on the scene. So a lot of people don't have a chance, depending on where the narcissist came into their life. So realize the cause that creates this effect, realize the foundation, and then the outcome of that foundation, meaning where are your vistas, where are your views, what are you looking out at? Do you need a change of scenery? Can you change the story? Instead of the story going this way, what is the better outcome of your story? And realize that oftentimes those negative outcomes are stories that you're telling about yourself, you're finding yourself in, if you will. And this might make sense to you. You might not get it for some time, but if you see, you can then change. And then embrace the change so you can realize some of the positive, and then slowly but surely, slow and steady, will win the race towards getting into the positive orderly direction, thinking, feeling, behaving, and becoming. You do not have to be something that you are not for someone who does not like you. A narcissist, oftentimes they don't like others. They will need others. They'll seek to create dependence. It can be a very stressful, pressurizing situation. Oftentimes that does not have a positive outcome for one's happiness, especially if you're defined by the negative. So don't allow that to hang over you. It's a very important tool and skill that you realize that you break out of that shell and embrace a sense of I am. And just allowing that to be, it doesn't have to be cast with any sort of definition, pretentious, I am great, just allow the I am to be. And what does that be state really feel like? And what, And where does your serenity exist from there? And how can you build and reinforce that? Do you want to come from the positive and develop relationships from that standpoint? Is that a better part? Can that be part of your future? Not future faking, because a narcissist will keep that tension going, but a future real, sort of a future real making. So, developing a vision for your future and in the positive is very important, especially now since we're getting into a new year. It's a great opportunity to really utilize all the tools, including that of the calendar, and making plans to surround yourself with like-minded people who don't have an agenda of fear, manipulation, and control, who don't need to put you through that for some reason. So, in realizing and identifying little by little where these situations, events, and experiences are, and then incorporating these and scheduling these into your day will really help you to break free and emerge with like a new I am that feels a little bit differently. It will be an energetic change coming from the negative to the positive. So you might feel that your energy is more pleasant, more peaceful, going at your own pace and not at the pace of a pressure to appease or pacify someone's negative feelings about you. So really, I would say you can experiment and realize where and what kind of decisions that will enhance this for you, and then where do you go awry? Where does the negative orderly direction, thinking, feeling, and behaving sort of begin to make you small? Shut down your positive and productive thinking and planning for the future. Realizing also that the negative hostility, if you are around that, the human being takes that as an attack, just like the saber-toothed tiger. So you have to realize that maybe you don't want to live in that area where there's all that chaos going on, and to have some leverage over yourself to declare and enforce that, and very deliberately declare that. Like, I prefer a safer this. I prefer a nicer that. I prefer, and then look at your preferences, and because that's really your needs which are being made invisible, made in, your needs are intolerable, your needs are whatever. So you have to, that's where you have, self-ownership right there. So learning little by little to take greater and greater ownership of getting yourself out of negative whoville and getting into the positive I amville. And realizing that it's okay for you to not be a specific way that is desirable for an abuser or a narcissist. You don't have to be that extension of them that they want to make you into be. So if they're trying to make you into something other than you are not, and excluding you because of that, then that is just a great textbook example of narcissistic objectification of others. So don't find yourself there. Be willing to find yourself not there, and what that really means to you. It might be daunting. It might feel like it doesn't have any flame, but the greatest journey begins with the first step. So sometimes even just coming to peace and accepting specific sort of ruts in your life and saying, you know what, there's the rut that I don't want to go in. Is that sort of forecasting? So in other words, emotional forecasting. So rather than being upset, painful, depressed, I'm going to go positive, orderly direction, thinking, feeling, behaving, and becoming. And then giving yourself a chance to heal there, and actually to go the distance, actually get the relationship, make the phone call, attend the Zoom, or whatever it is that's getting you into healthier relationships, which oftentimes might feel and become very different than a relationship with a narcissist or a psychopath. This is your buddy, Peace and Harmony, with you here today. I hope that the videos do help. Please share, please subscribe, and for goodness sake, please donate for more great tools, videos, discussion, and support. Peace is within you, pieces around you. Cultivate that in your environment, your life, and your I am, especially towards what I call your positive, orderly direction, thinking, feeling, behaving, and becoming. Allow yourself the ease of unfolding on the better life now.